Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if it is your first time here. It is your boy Manta here today, and we got some breaking news coming from Xbox, head of the Xbox Game Studios himself. So we're going to talk about Fable getting delayed to 2026. Now, we did not have an official release date for the game. We did expect it to come sometime in the fall, be that big fall 2025 game. We knew it was expected to come out 2025, but it has been delayed. So we're going to kind of talk about, what that looks like, some of the reasons that got pushed out, interviews that happened, and kind of my predictions for what the rest of the year looks like after the June showcase, and then what we may get in 2026, and then maybe things that'll get pushed out even further beyond that. But before we get into all that, please make sure you do leave a like on this video, hit that notification bell, and then roadie run over that subscribe button to join the team over here, the family we got going on with Manta XP. So with all that out of the way, let's get right into it. So this news came from the official Xbox podcast with Tina Meany and Craig Duncan. And Craig is the new head of Xbox Game Studios, and he spent some time with Rare, Midway, a bunch of other studios, but he's really worked with Rare for the most part before getting this position, helping with Rare Replay, Sea of Thieves. He's had some real good success over there. And he said, hey, he's a fan of Fable and everything like that. Now, this interview did start off with, just a kind of overview of the developer direct, Craig's history and things like that. And then they did talk about, Fable getting pushed out. Now they did show us some new gameplay, which we'll get into in a little bit. But the main thing for this whole conversation was to announce Fable getting delayed, but, kind of frame it with other types of information, probably introduce people to Craig that don't know him, like a lot of us don't. And then kind of, soften the blow a little bit, say, hey, listen, we want. And Xbox does this with a lot of their studios. We're saying, like Phil has said it, like, hey, we're not going to force studios to make games they don't want to make, and we're also not going to force them to push games out before they're ready to push out. And listen, after that whole Redfall debacle, Xbox needs to keep this type of energy. We could not have a Redfall. Listen, Redfall got delayed a whole year and still was such a mess. So I think, Phil and the team has just said, listen, we're going to let this thing cook as much as it can. And to be honest, we first got to look at Fable with, a little cinematic or whatever. What was that, like 2020? And then in 2023, we finally got to look at an actual, a little bit of gameplay, but more of the characters actually being used and everything like that. 2024 got a similar narrative type of, opening and a little bit of gameplay. We see the protagonist, walking through the woods, throwing fireballs, doing a whole bunch of different things. But then the cool thing we got from the podcast was this pre-alpha footage. Now, it was only 50 seconds, but we got to see some of the stuff we've seen before, just walking through different environments. We've seen her on horseback. We've seen some actual combat, no, HUD or any type of like weapon name display or anything like that. But I mean, the combat looked pretty decent. You got melee, you got fireball throwing again, which we saw originally. And I mean, the game just looks really great, right? Like Playground Games doesn't play when it comes to the visuals. We've seen them with Forza Horizon, which still looks great, all of them to this day, and just what they're able to do with lighting and everything like that. And now everyone's excited to see what they can do with a, high fantasy RPG. And I think, when it comes to these delays, of course, like we got official looks at the game. Like I said, back in 2023, we saw it again 2024, and it was expected to come out this year. So I don't think you can announce a delay without showing what the team actually has. We keep saying like, hey, the game looks great. I like what they're working on, but it's like us as consumers and fans haven't seen the game. And now I'm not biggest Fable guy. I didn't play the original series back on, the original Xbox or, the anniversary edition or anything like that. But it is a game I was looking forward to. I'm playing through Avowed right now, so kind of getting in that mode, some of that British humor, the different types of high fantasy gameplay and things like that. And I'm interested to see, what Playground Games can do when it comes to pushing out a fantasy game like this. Something I thought about with this delay was the fact that, Phil said it with Avowed in November, right? They pushed it, gave the team some more time to polish, but it was just like, we have too many games trying to come in like one window. And of course, a lot of that was Xbox's fault last year. You had Hellblade 2, which came out in May. You're talking about 5 months into the year, and then you don't have anything until Call of Duty in October, which is kind of crazy. And then you just have everything coming out at once. And now we said 2025 is looking like a lot to come out, right? We have already Avowed shipped already last week. Then you got South of Midnight coming in April. You got big Game Pass games like Clay Obscure. You had Stalker 2 back in November. You got Doom the Dark Ages, and that's just the first half of the year. And then we're gonna have Showcase, and then who knows what else is coming out the rest of the year. You know, you got Outer Worlds 2, which was announced at the Game Awards, and then Call of Duty is gonna come as well. And there's been rumors of like, hey, we're gonna get a whole bunch more other Xbox first party games coming out the rest of this year. There's rumors of Gears E-Day. Like 2025 is looking very packed, and with Fable being that big game, it's like, okay, what was going to be the fall game? What was going to have to get pushed out? Do we have other games that can fit kind of into this fall window where we don't have to force, the studio to push a game out earlier than it needs to be? And now my prediction was Fable was going to be that Xbox Summer Showcase, double feature game. They did that with Starfield 2 years ago. They did it with Call of Duty Black Ops 6 last year. And then Fable was expected to be, the game for that this year. But now, hey, what could that game be? And it may be a long shot, but realistically, I think Gears E-Day could be a lot further along than, people are thinking. We got Gears 5 back in 2019. So we're talking about 6 years ago. The Coalition is really good with making these games as far as the visuals and mechanics. They're masters with Unreal Engine. People Can Fly, who worked on Gears Judgment and also worked on the first three, the original trilogy. They're working on it. So this might be the big fall game. And Xbox is probably looking at like, hey, we don't need to ship both of these. But if our plan is to kind of, get this ball rolling with the Gears franchise, like, hey, Fable can wait a little bit. When you talk about the, hierarchy of the Xbox, classic games like Halo, Forza, Fable, Gears, like Gears is definitely up there higher than Fable, right? Like it probably goes Halo, Gears, maybe Forza, and then Fable. So yeah, we'll push that one out, give it some more time to polish and make sure the game is a lot better than, its current state. So I think that's what 2025 is going to look like. And I think Xbox is kind of releasing these games with varying level of prestige, we'll say, right? Like you have your South of Midnight, which is the smaller, like very good looking, but still, that smaller $40 nice game, you could put out. Then you have Avowed, which is more, that AA RPG, but still, high quality RPG that they're putting out. And then you have Doom the Dark Ages, which is going to be that hard hitting AAA multi-platform game. Call of Duty comes out every year, and then you need like one more banger for the fall. Last year, it was, if you want to call it the fall, but technically winter, you had Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. And then this year, it's like, okay, what's that going to be? So I think Gears can slide in there. Fable, as far as next year goes, so now I think 2025 is pretty mapped out. We might get an Oblivion remake. You might get this, we heard Fallout 3 remaster, things like that. So those can fit in between, let's say, Call of Duty and if Gears E-Day comes out this fall. Now, next year, I don't think you push Fable to the end of next year, which I don't know. Like, would you delay it a whole year? Possibly. We've had other games we've seen at Xbox showcases for the last couple of years. And the game that comes to mind for me is In Exile's Clockwork Revolution. We saw that in 2023. Now, we didn't see like real gameplay, like moment to moment, but we did see, a decent amount. This game being like that steampunk, futuristic, that Bioshocky type of game. Like I think this one's going to be a real good one, but I think it can fit somewhere in that like Avowed space or maybe even a Doom space to a lesser degree because it's like lesser known. But I think, this game could fit in really nicely next year. Now, for games that are a little further out, I'll say maybe 2027 or later, you might have Perfect Dark, which I think a lot of people think will come out next year, but I think we just seen this. There was some rumors behind the scenes of how development was not going so well. So we first saw some type of gameplay for this game in 2024. So it coming out in 2026 is possible, but if they can push it to 2027 just to keep that constant stream of first party games coming. I could see that happening as well. We got the announcement at the Game Awards 2023 that Arcane was going to be making a Blade video game, which, you know, is cool. Xbox getting its first, or not first, but its own Marvel game, just like PlayStation has Spider-Man and Wolverine. But that game, we haven't seen any gameplay, so that could be a 2027 game. Who knows? I also think it will be multi-platform. We haven't seen anything since 2021 for Avalanche's Contraband, which is supposed to be a, you know, co-op kind of heist game set in the 70s. So that may show up. Who knows? Maybe that ships this year. Like there's no way to really tell. And then I'd be remiss to not mention, you know, Phil Spencer's interview with Xbox Era. Recently they told him, you know, they talked to him and he said, you know, what he's looking forward to, what he's been visiting studios and things like that. State of Decay 3, which we saw at the Game Showcase back last year. Maybe that's coming 2026. He said he's been Double Fine. They're working on something cool, which again will be that cool little, you know, AA kind of like smaller game. We've seen like Psychonauts 2 was really good. That came out in 2021. So maybe we get a look at their next game. And then he said, hey, he went to Rare. He's not rushing them, but Everwild, anybody? Like, what's going on with that? Like, we haven't seen that game since 2021. It's been a very long time. And again, let the studios cook, but nobody even knows what this game is. Like, forget what it looks like. We're sure the art style looks great. It'll look beautiful, but it's like, what is this game going to actually be? I don't think it'll be like that big fall blockbuster game, but again, either way, like the games have to come out at some point and start filling out the rest of this calendar. And so when you look at it, you know, Fable getting delayed isn't that bad because, like I said, a game getting delayed when we've actually seen footage and some type of gameplay and we're getting, you know, good reports of how the game's coming along isn't that bad, especially when you have a bunch of other games in your portfolio to come out. So what I think is going to happen, like I said, the rest of 2025, we'll get our Call of Duty in October. We probably get Gears E-Day in November. Maybe they ship another smaller game, maybe like Contraband, like that in December around the holiday time for, you know, people that's at home, play with your friends and everything like that. And then looking into 2026, like they already announced Fable got pushed out to that year. State of Decay 3. And we know Outer Worlds 2 is coming out too. So that maybe that's the December game. Like it's hard to tell. I mean, Clockwork Revolution next year as well. And then I think Perfect Dark, Everwild, maybe near the end of 2026 or going into 2027. OD, all that stuff's a little bit further out. Blade, all that. Now we might also get a Halo game coming out. It will be the 25th anniversary. Halo Studios is talked about, you know, working on multiple projects. They rebooted, I think, at the end of 2022 or maybe beginning of 2023. So then, you know, you're talking 3-4 years after that, working in Unreal Engine, they could get that going. You know, if they're doing remakes and stuff like that, they have stuff to pull from. So, and if we get that handheld, new generation 2027, handheld 2026, who knows? So, those are my thoughts on it. Fable getting delayed, not too mad at it. Again, there's plenty of things to play. I think Xbox is doing the smart thing, giving the team time to cook, polish, and have a constant flow of games coming, keeping the Game Pass subscriptions growing and also constant so people aren't, you know, hopping off. There's nothing to play. And then they have their third-party partnerships with Game Pass, like we said before, with Lies of P a couple years ago, Stalker 2 last year, Persona 3 Reload, Claire Obscura this year. So there's going to be plenty of things to play. So y'all let me know what y'all think about Fable getting delayed, the, you know, possible outlook on the next, you know, rest of this year, 2025, 2026, maybe even other stuff coming out 2027. Y'all let me know what y'all think about the roadmap. Again, if you have not already, subscribe to the channel, leave a like on this video, and I'll catch you